On AutoApp, we have admins, we have developers, and then we have the investors. And they all have different perspectives and what they look for in a project. And, I really do try to hammer into a lot of our people that are still brand new or learning the landscape. Is like, you know, coins do have some sort of like, clearly a lot of people come into the market and they're looking for some sort of ROI and all that stuff. And I get that. Clearly there's an aspect to growth in the crypto markets. And that's why a lot of us are here for the economy and all these great things. But these coins are tools. The coins, you could utilize them for tools to create things and to build things. I think that the biggest misconception about the crypto industry or the economy that's coming is so much in the investors world, because when you first come in, you come in as an investor, and after you spend so many years within the sector, you start becoming more and more inspired. You start learning how things work. And I tell people, you look at the coin as a tool, but look at the products and services that the company is selling, because you take a look at it, and at first glance you say, well, what's the product, what's the service. And once you get to that part, people say, okay, is this going to do well, for investment purposes or whatever the case. But that's one piece of this entire puzzle. When you take a look at these coins and you take a look at the service and the product that, let's say, ArcBlock is providing, it's giving you the tools necessary to make a company fast, make apps fast, because these are what you're going to utilize to monetize whatever your company is. This is something like the server. I wanted to get the blocklet right away. I could run 8 applications on it, and now I could utilize the tools that I purchased to build revenue in a way where I'm selling NFTs, or I'm selling this, or I'm selling that. A lot of people only look at coins for coins, but they don't look at them for utility the way they should be. There's a lot more money to be made in the space, but I think it's more so in the builder side, because the market hasn't built its true infrastructure yet. It's in that infrastructure stage, and we need to keep inspiring builders to come, because I was just on an interview recently about how, like, a lot of people are interested in AI. ArcBlock is definitely, it has machine learning capabilities to it. There's a lot more to this, like digital ID, the blocklets. There's a lot of different things going on. But at the same time, we don't want to get replaced all the way, do we? We want to make sure that humans are still valuable. We got to make sure that we adapt to the new economy, and adapting to the new economy is utilizing coins like ArcBlock to get a blocklet and create your businesses utilizing these tools that make creating a website easier, that make you, make an NFT marketplace faster. You could go from scratch to full business model ready to sell products and services right out of ArcBlock, literally within your first 48 hours. I would say even faster than that. It just depends on, like, if you have your idea ready to go. But when I was looking at it, creating things, I was like, I had to do some thinking on it, but but from idea phase to action phase, it was lightning fast. And I love the fact that you guys had provided engineering support there, or you had the support there to help me make the website, help me make the NFT marketplace, troubleshoot little things. Like, all those things matter to me when I'm learning how to utilize a tool that ArcBlock provides. So that was a real big plus for me when I started after I got my blocklet.
Yes, thank you for the good words.
Yeah.
So how about I start with a quick demo to basically live show from the live streaming to have a quick demo on what we actually ArcBlock exactly do, because I believe not everybody experienced what we are capable to do, right? So that's actually one of the important reasons that I'm planning for this year is we tried to do a lot of those kind of live sessions that show something real, right? Because sometimes we always say talk is cheap, right? Show me the code. Right now, I'm sharing the screen. I believe everybody going to see my screen. And this is coming to my personal website. I have a personal website, if you don't know. It's basically my name, robertmao.com. If you go to this website, this is just looks exactly the same website, same shitty personal website you see anywhere. But what's different is this website is a decentralized web. Right? This is a decentralized web. Decentralized web is powered by our block. And you can see right now I built my homepage. Is welcome. I'm writing a few blogs because I'm native Chinese speaker, so it's always easier for me to write a blog in Chinese first. So if you can read Chinese, so my blog, I'm keep writing blog, but I promise I'm going to kind of rewrite them, some of them to the English. And thanks for the AIs. So that makes me write the English version so much easier. So, and I also have these sections to say follow me on Twitters, and also I have these kind of YouTube videos to show here. Right. By the way, if you click on, if you want to learn what is our blog, here I have a session, say, which is contains a few of the videos I recorded. Basically, the video show. I explained to everybody what exactly is our blog. So it's a 3-part video. The first part is beyond cryptocurrency. So our blog is built on blockchain. There's a lot of crypto features inside, but our blog is definitely way beyond cryptocurrencies. And the second part is what makes our blog unique, right? After you watch this part, you understand the important part, the concept we call the blocklet, is all about having building blocks, quickly building things. I'm going to show you in just a minute, right? And the third part is still talking about reusable software, because reusable software is basically like the holy grail of the software industry. In the past several decades, people are trying to solve this kind of reusable software component problem. I think we are doing something even better based on a lot of the previous works by other great computer scientists and companies. So watch this, and that will help you understand better what is our block. But now,
Robert, before you go further on this, can you explain to me? So this website runs on ArcBlock. Tell me what the benefit is for this website to be truly decentralized, and tell me what can't be done to this website. You know, since it's Web3 and it's decentralized website, you created this off of ArcBlock. But what does that mean? Is there a single point of failure here?
Cool. That's a very good question. So actually, I wrote 2 blogs exactly talking about these 2 questions. Unfortunately, right now they're in Chinese.
I'll translate them
and I'm still yet to complete them. But I'm happy to share a few of the thoughts. Right. The first of all, what's the difference of this website to another personal website? The simple question is, the simple answer is, there's no different. From the consumer point of view, when you look at this DWeb created on our blog, from a consumer point of view, if you browse this website, you don't see this different. It's as fast as a normal website. It appears the same, right? So that basically means the decentralized web does not need to sacrifice the user experience. You get the same good user experience you get from anywhere, right? Mm-hmm. The second important part for a DWeb is this is a website that is completely owned by myself, right? It's not like I'm hosting that on Medium, that someday, so the Medium might starting to charge money, so they limited the features or they set a part of the things down, right? It's not like when we broadcast in the YouTube, sometimes suddenly YouTube give you a yellow label, say, hey, your video has a potential. Our AI detected that your video has some copyright issues, so we're going to remove your video. But what could have happened? See, if we are talking about this, how could that happen? Sometimes AI make mistakes. Probably they see your background pictures, they think that is a copyrighted thing, right? So as a decentralized apps, you have to take the full control. There's nobody could censor you. There's nobody screen you. Nobody, run an AI to check what you're supposed to do and what you're supposed not to do, right? It's a freedom of speech. It's a completely support of freedom of speech.
A lot of people don't realize how many times they're censored on the internet. You know, you're censored consistently on the internet, and the biggest players that are gonna, I feel, especially for the bull cycle coming in the future, you know, I really feel like what's gonna lead it is Web3, you know, and Web3 is like a tie together with DID, which I believe ArcBlock has. It has both the compliance DID wallet. I like that. But I do feel like, you know, in order for us to get further into Web3, we're eventually going to get to that level. But you know, let's say on YouTube, you know, YouTube censors you not only for copyright, but if you don't say boys and girls, you know, if you only say hey guys, that's a strike against you. And a lot of this stuff is social engineering in some sort of fashion from the platform, trying to provide the content that it kind of wants, and it dictates that. And the same thing is done on Twitter and Facebook and all the other places. So you can either be banned or removed, or you could be shadow banned and censored in a way where now they say, oh well, we're going to give you freedom of speech, but now you don't have freedom of reach now. And it's all relative. It's all the same thing. It's all censorship in some sort of way. So I think a lot of people need to pay attention to what's going to be the next market. And the next market is decentralization, no censorship, and owning your own software, owning your own content, your own data, and privacy to your data. So that's going to be a big thing, guys, that I want you to pay attention to as to why you would want a Web3 website. And it's censorship. You want to be able to say whatever you want and do whatever you want.
Yeah. So I write at one of the article, I referenced to one of the picture of the Tim Berners-Lee, and he's a creator of the web. Right. So this is his picture with the first web he ever created. And matter of fact, the website, the internet applications, they are all decentralized in the beginning. That is to say, decentralized app is not a new concept. It's not something new. That is instead decentralized application is a very old concept. Almost all of us have already used some of those decentralized applications already, right? So the centralization is just when the web and the internet become more commercialized, more and more companies are trying to kind of building the service and again more and more centralized controls, right? So, but actually in the beginning, your personal website is completely decentralized. Like when Tim Berners-Lee, in the age of the Tim Berners-Lee, everybody building their website is very much decentralized. But why people no longer use a decentralized web and instead to jump to use the centralized system? The only reason is because of user experience. Because to be able to build a website at that time, it need a lot of technology, right? So actually, that was actually the first bucket of the money I made for my startup. You know, my first startup is I just go out of the school and I know how to build the web page, just writing very simple HTML code. At that time, internet is just the very beginning, right? So there's a lot of the new big companies are setting up these ISPs. They're trying to build the website. They really badly need the content. Say, hey, where can I get a lot of content so people want to use, right? So the first project my startup built is I basically turn a lot of those kind of content into the HTML format. Right. I write a code to convert the old data, the data already in the CD-ROMs, in the data from those companies, and turn them into HTML.
Is there a particular language?
If you look at that, it's super low tech. It's basically like no skill set. But at that moment, I made a lot of money from there. So that's basically the money I used for funding my first startup, right? Because I just at the time I'm just a student out of school. I have zero money, right? But by building this very low tech at that moment, people think this is super high tech, and people are willing to pay for it, right? But because the reason why, because you need a technical skill to do that. You need to understand a lot of things to do that. So that costs a lot. So that stopped 99% of people from building it, right?
Yeah.
So the Web3, I think the key part of Web3 is especially for our PLOW. We try to build the application software that has a really, really low entry barriers, right? Like you just mentioned, when you build your NFT yourself, you build the NFT store, the NFT marketplace all by yourself, and you're going to release soon. And can you imagine, right? If you are coming to a bunch of developers, say you told them, "Hey, I built this," and if without the platform and the component like our block provided, it's honestly it's hard. It's really hard for you to do that, right? Mm-hmm. So with
and you're usually playing on someone else's playground too. You know, you play on OpenSea, or you play on Rarible. You know, like the platform that I built, that's like entirely mine. The way it's set up, you know, so that I think that's a big green light, I would say, on ArcBlock. You know, I don't think a lot of people understand just how much power you relinquish using third-party platforms, and that's something I tell MYC all the time. It's like, you know, when we first made OddApp and it was finally with us, you know, we were like, hey, you know, we want to go to everything first party. We want to work on our own platform. We want to build our own stuff, and we want to make sure that if we go into Web3, anything that we build, our data, everything, we want to make sure we own it. And, you know, ownership is about the real freedom of what you want to do. Well, you were saying that you coded, you know, that really low like no skill code for the HTMLS, or I don't know what you said, but what language was that in, and also what languages can ArcBlock be built in, you know, or what languages can a developer utilize on ArcBlock?
Yeah, so first of all, let's start with no code, right? So no code basically means you don't write any code, right? So what language is English or Chinese or any language or the visual language that you see, right? So let me quickly spend a few minutes to just build a new page of my website that is for our live stream. And so people will have a visual idea what is our blog platform actually working and how this website is actually built, right? So let's start. So this is my personal website, and so on this website, I click my menu because I already log in, so it's know I'm admin of this website. So I can come to the management interface. So once I come to this management interface, it show so it basically show a bunch of the list kind of control panels. For example, I can see how much CPUs, how many memories has been used, and what is, you know, what the healthy status of my application. But right now I'm going to focus to build my web pages. So in my website, I use an important component blocklet called a pages kit. In this pages kit, I have these page makers. So let's imagine, as you can see, the web page you see on my home screen is actually I created here. So let's just create one new page from scratch. Let's create a new web page for this live streaming. So I just hit create page. Now I have an empty page that is open on this preview side, right? So I add a new section, and the section has been filled with a bunch of things. I just remove the placeholders, say live stream, live.
I like how all the quick tools are there for you just to like build whatever you need.
Yeah, so now you see, I just write a few. I just as you can ask, say what kind of language. You know, right now I'm using English, right? So, you correct my English if you figure out there's anything, any typos, right? So I create a very quick page. Say, hey, from 0 to 3, I will start a series of video podcast for demos, AMA, and beyond. Okay, so now I have the YouTube. The YouTube link is here. I copy the YouTube link. What I'm going to do is I'm just planning to change that static image into a YouTube link.
Wow, look at that. Look how cool.
So let me have a preview to see if it is correct. Now I have a preview window. So this is going to be the web page looks like, right? So now this page is actually live and on, and this video is actually the video that we are broadcasting right now. So see, it's on, right? So this is preview. Let's say imagine, hey, we don't like this white one. We want to turn that into the dark one, and I can, so the preview is also live. You can have two windows side by side whenever you edit, and you will see the preview immediately. And
Wow.
if you can even send this preview link to your friends, so you can immediately, instantly collect the feedback, what it looks like. Let's say, for example, I think this kind of dark background sounds cool, looks cool, but it's not that great. I can just use an image. The image already uploaded for the background. So I click that. Now the website looks pretty amazing, right? So all I need to do is I publish it, right? So once I publish that, so that piece of a web page is on. But hold on, there's one more thing I want to change, because right now when I create the web page, it's just to pick the random name for me. I just need to use that for a better path. I say live.
And when you launch a website or you launch an application, you get your own domain, don't you?
Yes, I will come back to that later. So let me first just see. So right now, let me go to the robertmao.com, and I just name it to pass, say live 2023. And yeah, we're here, right? So we're here. So we have this live video podcast web page zone. So I can share that on Twitter so everybody can see it. The live podcast webpage I just created during the live streaming is here. All right, so yeah, you can see how fast and easy you can get this new web page on. So all my websites, for example, the homepage is just this page, right? And our blog introduction, I suggest everybody to have a quick look. Is just one of the page I grabbed and created in a few minutes. I'm also creating a page that is called a building art blog. So I'm going to share a bunch of the photos from the year 2017 to 2023, all the way along. So how we get here. So this page is still is still under constructions, but basically I'm putting more and more content here that makes it easy for me to share how it worked, what kind of achievement, what kind of milestone we have ever achieved. So this is basically the page kit that I used for power my website. So the question you just asked, so how do I set up the domain names, right? So right now, for example, if you come to the admin dashboard of my personal website, you will see right now I have 3 domains here. The top domain is my personalized domain that I bought, and I just point this domain to this service. So for anybody who create this user blocklet, we're going to give them a DID domain. So this is the interesting concept, that because everything in our blog is has a DID, decentralized identifiers. So include your website. Your website also have a decentralized identifier. So this decentralized identifier is going to automatically have a DID domain. So this DID domain is going to work, right? So this is the same thing. If you click on this kind of DID domains website, it's going to load. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. So actually, the robertmao.com is pointing to this DID domain. You might be interested in there is another we call IP domain. So this is for testing only. So this IP domain, if you click on this, This is also the same website, and just with this kind of weird IP domain. For the developers, you are easier to understand. This is actually a quick mapping to the IP address. So that just makes the debugging much easier. But you should not use this IP domain for any external use. Yeah. So binding the domains, and you can see all those domains, they are secured. So a lot of people, when you are going to deploy your own website, even you bought the domain is easy, but to getting those kind of SSL certificate, which is how to secure your website, is always kind of a headache because there's a lot of technology related stuff there. But we make this kind of a SSL certificate is super easy. You just put the domain, following a few instructions. So those certificates are going to automatically apply the SSL certificate from Let's Encrypt automatically for you, and also automatically renewed. You just kind of set it up and forget about it, and everything has been taken care of. Makes sense that answered your question, DM?
Yeah, so like that domain's on ArcBlock, but you could still change the name to like, let's say if I had a Google domain or I had a special name, I could still utilize that name and still be on this domain, right?
Yes. So basically what you do is you just use, so whichever domain provider you got, for example, right now I have this robertmao.com from Google domain. I just use this, add a CNAME record to this did domain, right? So once you CNAME to did domain, but CNAME is basically the concept that you tell the Google domain server, say, hey, whenever you see this name, it's an alias to the other name. So this other name is the did domain. The did domain will automatically take care for you.
So I noticed that like you call it the DID domain. Like, is there a reason why you say it's a DID domain versus an ArcBlock or Web3 domain?
The did domain is because you see the prefix here. This is a did. So this is exactly the did. So this is the concept of the, because in ArcBlock's architect, we use the did, decentralized identifiers, for anything, right? For a token, for an NFT, for a user account, for a software license, or for a website. Anything that you needed to identify it is a did, right? So your website is supposed to have an identifier, so that's a did, right? So that's a did domain. So the did domain has a so we call that did domain is just because this is just a did.
So, I notice, and the reason why I bring this up is because the way the code is written, because when I looked into DID, when you look into the W3C compliant, the verifier, when you look at all of that, it's written always that way where it shows the code and then it shows DID and then whatever else, so why are companies going to want to get on the DID code versus other codes? Is it because of that Web3 ability, or why are other companies going to start utilizing the domains this way versus another way? Is it because of that freedom of speech thing, or is there a way that the code needs to be written out and verified this way versus another?
I think there's a lot of reasons. Identifiers, identity and identifier layers is a missing part of the internet, because in the 1960s, when the internet was first introduced, right? Internet is completed for military use. Right? Mm-hmm. So for the military, that basically means the internet is not designed for anybody. Whoever can access the internet in the 60s or 70s, they are researchers or they are officers in the military department, right? So they didn't think that the identifiers is something important. But now, after so many years, after so many decades, right? So internet become everybody's things. Today's everybody's things. So then the missing part of the identifiers become a problem. So that is a remember the famous joke. the comment that on internet nobody know you're a dog, right? Because on the other side of the internet they don't know who you are. But when internet becomes our daily life, the identity, your identifier becomes so important. So that's why W3C, which is the organization behind the web standard, a bunch of smart people in W3C decided to create DID, decentralized identifiers. So the W3C DID is not the first attempt to creating some kind of open identities and identifier solutions in the past decades. There's many different tries. For example, the OpenID. But most of others didn't go. So none of this first of all, none of this new identifier technology has been well adopted yet. But the W3C DID is the first one, the first decentralized identity technology that become the W3C recommendation, which is the standard. Right?
Why?
I believe a lot more companies are going to adopt DID. There is first of all, they really need some technology like this. They need a technology that is decentralized, that is a universal accepted identifiers. The second of all, W3C is a standard organization and it has a reputation when created web standard, right? So that's how the higher, it's high likely DID from W3C going to be better accepted by something from, for example, from Facebook. Like Facebook attempted to let everybody just use Facebook ID, right? But if this is going to happen, this is going to solve the problem that everybody just use Facebook ID. But that gives a problem, then that basically means all your data, everything is controlled by one company. Right? But for the W3C DID, is all about decentralization. Is about you, everybody. It's only you have the full control of your identity for yourself, not anybody else.
So two questions, and you can answer the first question real fast and easy. But the next question is going to be a lot more interesting. So the first question is, so why would the military, like at the time when this was going on, at the time, why would the military only be the ones that had access to this type of identifier, the DID? Why did the military want this clearance? Is it because it was immutable?
That's a long time ago. So when I talked about military, is about it in 1960. I think the internet was invented in 1967 or 65. I don't remember clearly, but it's in 1960s, right? It's several decades has passed. The internet was invented. It's the original name called ARPANET, right? So at that time is a Cold War. The government understands that communication going to be very critical for the whole military system, right? So in the Cold War, a lot of people are worried about what if there's a nuclear war that take down your central control, right? For most of the network at that moment, it's a centralized, which is you have a center of it called the network centers. But once the network center is done, and everything is done, right? So the building of the internet is trying to find a solution that there's a network that does not have a central control system. So that basically means if there's internet, if you hit one center, then another center is going to automatically take over the network. And the network can even be able to kind of automatically, recover itself. For example, if the United States get hit by the Russian nuclear weapons and the whole network, some of the infrastructure was broken, but once you fix some of them, and the network can automatically recover by the self. That was the original idea of the internet. So from the very beginning, the internet is all about decentralization, is thinking how to remove the centralized control of the whole system.
So I love how you always say there's no single point of failure for the infrastructure of the way it was built, and so it really gives you an idea of why the DID identifier for the domain is written the way it's written. And so that answers a lot of what I wanted to know, because it's now that it's being implemented, it's like we're bringing the past into the future in a way. where this is kind of this is what everybody wants. So you have that identifier, so of course, this is all going to tie into digital ID at some point. So this is kind of why I feel like this is why when real Web3 comes out, like where it's fully realized, do they want these DID identifiers to be linked to the individual in a way, since they're like decentralized?
Yeah, so the decentralized identifier and a decentralized identity. So first of all, let's kind of be clarified. Decentralized identifier and a decentralized identity are two different concepts. They're related, right? Identifier is just like a name, right? Like I'm Robert, you're Dan. But the identity is something broader, right? Identity is basically about who am I, and what's my background, what's my connections. That whole thing add up, that make my identity. But identify is just a handler, right?
Are they going to be tied together at some point?
Yeah, so because you have to have identifiers. You have to have identifiers. In able to have a decentralized identity, you need to have a decentralized identifier first, right? If the way that we find you already centralized, controlled by somebody else, how can you have your identity, right? So that's also important. Why the whole Web3 decentralization is the decentralized identity is so important for the Web3. Imagine if you don't even have your control of your identity, how do you control your asset? How do you control your data, right? So for example, imagine if the Facebook becomes the whole world's identity providers, right? Everybody need to prove you are you with the Facebook, right? Even you can own your bank, you can own some of your asset, but the identity that bind to those kind of asset is controlled by somebody else. How can you take the full control? You cannot, right?
Yeah.
So that is basically like an identifier. Decentralized identifier is a core and most important part for the decentralized identity, because once you have an identifier, and then you can have the data, a bunch of data signatures related to the identifier,
and you can pretty much limitate what data gets out at that point too.
Right. And then when you have your own identity, and then you can consider there's more things that are related to the identity can be controlled by the users. For example, in this case, my website itself is a data, and this data is controlled by a DID, and that DID is managed in my cell phone with a private key here, right? So this website is not logged in with a username password, but instead I need to use my data wallet to have a signature to prove that, okay, I'm a controller. I can control this website, and then this website is going to be, so that's a part of my, my data.
I've been noticing,
and it's also interesting is, for example, imagine. So when we talk about the single point of failure, right? So this website, my website right now, the domain is still using Google domain, which is a centralized service, right? So ultimately, this website is run on an AWS server somewhere. So this is controlled by Amazon, right? So yeah, so the Web3 is not building something on the air. Web3 is still building something on today's infrastructures, right? So the Web3 is decentralized. It's still built on a few of those kind of centralized service. So I like you get the concept of the single point of failures, right? So the single point of failures, I think to determine if a system is decentralized or not, I think the best way, one of the best important way is you determine if there's a single point of failure, or if there's a single point of a controlling point somewhere. If there's no single point of a failure, no single point of a controlling point, that means that system is likely more decentralized, right? So for my personal website right now, for example, even though the data is running on the AWS data center, but the data is completely controlled by myself. And other than AWS, there's Windows Azure, the Google Cloud. So as long as I can very easily to kind of move my personal website to anywhere, the website could be even hosting in one of the server at my home, right? So as long as you can quickly move your system to anywhere else, so that's basically avoided the single point of failures. There's nothing in this world that is completely, absolutely decentralized, right?
Yeah, yeah. I always go through this conversation with people too. I mean, you could get as close to the concept of Web3 or full decentralization, but there's always going to be some sort of pressure point where you could say, oh, well, this is still connected. Well, like, clearly everything has to have some sort of connection somewhere, but you could tell that this is the beginning of something different in the future, because you want to try to decentralize as much as you can to minimize any point of failure. So I think it's really awesome just to kind of see it from a different perspective, because there's levels of decentralization that you could get to. You could get to the highest level with ArcBlock, and but eventually at some point, right, okay, we're running off of Amazon servers. All right, well, that's kind of a point of failure, right? But there's different ways where you could run your own server. You could run your own nodes. You could run your own networks. Like, there's different things that you could do to get to that level, but this is definitely the first steps to that level. I think, I know it really brings it up, but I think it is the coolest thing that when you have your own blocklet, you get your own domain. You get a serverless server, and I just like that you get those benefits that people don't really see in between. They only hear the name. They hear the name. Okay, you get a blocklet. You get to choose between 8 applications for that one particular blocklet, or you could get another blocklet that has more application space, or whatever the case whatever you may need. So that's cool. But those little things that people aren't seeing that are highly valuable. You said this is a component to the internet, a component that should have been what the internet should have always been since the beginning, not what we had before on Web 2. Web 3, or decentralized internet access, is what we should have had all this time. And to see the DID identifier for what it is now, and that it was military grade at one point, now it's universal for everybody. This is something that a lot of people aren't really realizing yet, because if you think about it, now more and more privacy is an issue. Data is an issue. Data harvesting is an issue. And this is what it's going to protect us in the future, and what's going to be, think about it. Cyber attacks are a big thing right now. Everyone's worried about security. That's another issue, But this is all just like really exciting for me to see that, not only ArcBlock coming out with this, but there's a lot of companies right now looking for DID solutions. And, your company, out of all the companies I've researched, is the only one that's compliant under the W3C recommendation. So, I think a lot of people need to pay attention to that part too. There's nobody in compliance at this time for DID.
Yeah, I just need to kind of correct a little bit. It's not just we are not the only one. There's about like there's still tens of different companies, but different people in the DID, people are focused on different things. Some of them are focused on focus on the enterprise. Some of them focus on the network or government. But we are probably the only few companies that focus on the Web3 and the DID.
Yeah, but you're compliant though under the W3C though. You're still functioning everyththing off of the recommendation though.
Yeah, because we're part of the W3C. We actually participated with W3C from very early on, since the year 2018. And before it's become a standard, before it's become a recommendation, we already built a few things, proposed a few things, attended quite a few conferences to get all together, right? So let's go have a quick look at a little bit back of what actually makes my website, right? On my dashboard, you can see there is a concept called components. Each of those components is a blocklet. As you can see, my website consists of those components. For example, page kit I just showed you. So that is used for creating my web pages. As you can see, our components can consist of other component. So this page kit consists of one of these is a child component, which is also blocklet called image bin. So this image bin is used for upload image management. And you can see a few more other components. For example, there's a comments, there's a vote, there's a gift card. So that's why when you go to my website, you will see there's a discussion board here. So I enabled my discussion for a few of my friends in Chinese by just adding this component. Right? I don't need to kind of rebuild or write code for that. And I use this same discussion board to write a blog. So that's the blog you see on the webpage. I can very easily to share my ideas here. I also have this gift card, so I can send away. I can send. I believe a lot of people followed our blog has ever received the gift card we have, and I also basically because the gift card is a decentralized app itself. Anybody can have the gift card. Anybody can. You can issue your own gift card as long as you install this blocklet. So the cool thing of the whole Art block is everything is decentralized. That means anything that you see, oh, Art block has this store, Art block has this marketplace, Art block has this NFT. That basically means you can have it, right? You can have it effortlessly because that's all blocklet. Right now, the whole Art block, everything on Art block is built on Art block. It's built on Art block and by the Art block.
We have a question that just came in. I don't know if you've already answered it. So Jake says, running an ABT node, does the website count as one of the 8 programs allowed on the node?
Yeah, I know Jake asked this question because when he launched ABT node, there's different options. One of the options says it allow you to have the 8 blocklet. I think this number is inaccurate. We're going to scrap that and rewrite that because for the blocklet server, actually for a blocklet server, you can run as many as blocklet as you need. However, there's a limitation for that server because that server's memory, that server's hard drive does not allow you to have unlimited, right? It's just like you bought a MacBook, you bought a computer yourself. How many apps you can install? How many apps you can run? There's a limitation, but what exactly the limitation, nobody know, right? So we're going to scrap that numbers, and because it's one different blocklet, they consume different resources. So it's going to be different.
I did notice that you had different options per blocklet. There's one with like X amount of applications.
Yeah. So so the blocklet the plan is in year 2023, and for make the blocklet more available for the consumers, we're going to have the 2 type of the blocklet server. One is called a serverless. Serverless basically means you don't need a server. You don't need a server. You don't manage server. So you just say, hey, I want to run this blocklet, and then that's it. There's no server concept at all. So the serverless blocklet, we also make this very easy. To run a serverless blocklet, how much does this cost? Is 1 ABT. Is 1 ABT token means you can run 1 blocklet, right? So then that makes it very easy to count. For example, if you have my website that I composed with different blocklets together, probably in my personal website, I probably composed 8 different blocklets, right? So that basically means that cost me 8 ABT to run that blocklet, right? So how many ABT you need to run that in the serverless mode is completely depends on how many blocklets you are going to need for your website. If your website only have 1 blocklet, that costs 1 ABT. If you have 10, it costs 10 ABT, right?
Got it.
But for the blocklet server, that's a different story. Blocklet server is basically, imagine this is basically like the big chunk of the space that you bought yourself for you to run. Because if you are buying this kind of a serverless mode in the So once you say, hey, I run this blocklet that cost me 1 ABT, but then tomorrow I want to run another blocklet. Unfortunately, you cannot say, hey, I want to replace this previous one and run this one.
Mm-hmm.
You have to spend another ABT for run another blocklet.
Gotcha.
So if you are somebody who really want to play the system, or you really want to put the gigantic of the blocklets together. Say, imagine I want to build something with hundreds of blocklets, or I want to just play all the blocks around, and it might cost you a lot of ABT to just experiment or just to run this. In that case, you just bought a blocklet server. The blocklet server is more expensive and is bought in chunk. But then that basically means that the whole blocklet server, that whole space, is for you to run whatever blocklet you want. So that basically means that the rule of thumb is, if you are just a user, you just want to set up your website, you run a few blocklets on your own, just to go to the serverless mode, right? Effortless. You just pay the token and then you get it up and running in a few minutes.
That's cool.
If you're a professional, or if you really want to run a lot of those blocklet or do a lot of experiment, go to the blocklet server. So that will save you money. But you are going to responsible to considering how to manage those blocklet servers.
Yeah, you have to renew
so
it.
That's basically for the advanced users.
And that's per quarter, the way it works, right? The per quarter, the blocklets. You renew.
So for the serverless is per month.
Based.
We're going to change everything to per month based.
Oh, okay, cool. It's going to be interesting because, like, clearly you guys are built for enterprise use, so these are going to take a lot of blocklets, and the more complex the applications get, or the more complex the company is, or how large it is, it's going to need multiple blocklets to create what it needs to. So it's always interesting.
So that's a very good question and a very good point. And for enterprise users, they could even run their own blocklet server providers by themselves. Imagine an enterprise say, hey, I already have a data center, I already have an account in AWS, or I already have a lot of servers on my own, but I still want to use a blocklet technology. I still want to have these blocklet servers, but why do I want to pay extra money for that, right? In this case, the answer is no, you don't need to. You can basically, so when you launch your blocklet or blocklet server, you will see there's a launcher called RBlox launchers, right? Probably we should call it a launch pad, right? It sounds cooler, right? so anybody can have your launch pad. The launcher of the RBlox is nothing but a special blocklet. So that blocklet, basically you need to make some configurations for you to control the cloud resources, to decide it when somebody want to request you to do the launch for them. It's going to automatically provision the server, install the software, do all those configuration automatically for that, right? So the launcher itself is a blocklet. So anybody can have your own launcher.
So I could, like, if I can, so blocklet, it could be ran on any server, or?
It runs on specific servers, right?
Okay. But let's say if I wanted to build my own server that could run blocklet, I could use my own server.
Yeah, it's possible. If you have the technology, in that case, you need an IT person. If you're ever considering that you need to run a launcher, you need to have the IT person to understand inside out how to set up in your network environment, how to set up your VM, how to build up all those images, and especially how to secure the system, right? In that case, so for a larger enterprise, they have the technology, they have the person resource, they're doing that. For the smaller business or the company who do not want to kind of spend time on the IT management, they can just go with RBlox launchers.
Oh my gosh, this is crazy. I had tweeted you on this, and I knew you were waiting to answer this question, because I just had like an epiphany trying to put together the way everything worked, and I was like, wait a minute, so that means that a company, based on if they had whatever they needed, they could get blocklets together and they could run it themselves in a way, and so you have both sides covered. So you have Yeah, the enterprise, and then the smaller people or like the smaller businesses that don't have those resources, they have access, and even the bigger guys have access, and they will not lackluster in performance between either or. ArcBlog has the technology and the performance ready for either or, small or big. So I think that is huge. That is huge, especially the fact that you could run these on your own too. I mean, clearly I'm not going to, but like the fact that enterprise level companies could run their own blocklets, customize their applications, everything just like Lego pieces, make them as complex as they want, and still be able to own their own stuff. Man, that's amazing.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
So that's because our block and the blocklet, this is the kind of very kind of foundation components. It does not kind of say this is consumer facing or this is enterprise facing or this is government facing. This is basically like a very foundation, like a computer, right? Is a computer for human, for consumer or for enterprise? It's both, right? In
Man,
the in
that's
the in the
awesome.
very old days, I remember at the time I worked for Microsoft. That's a side story. I worked for Microsoft with the iPhone coming out, right? So instantly iPhone get a quick adoption for the consumer because it's so much consumer friendly. At that time, I worked for Windows Mobile, the Microsoft division, and we have some kind of leadership and who didn't see the
I
trend
noticed you
of the
guys have like a little liquid partnership there, between ArcBlock and T-Mobile.
yeah. So at the time, some of the leadership in Microsoft say, hey, we don't need to worry about iPhone because the biggest customers of Windows Mobile are enterprise. So at that time, there's internal debating, and one of the part that I belong to is for the phone, there's no consumer or enterprise. It's just because it's just a phone, right? So quickly, iPhone take over the enterprise as well, because who is going to? Everybody like the quick and easy, simple to use, nice phones, right? So same thing for the art block technology. Art block technology is just the infrastructure layers for better decentralized application infrastructures. It can be used for consumer. It can be used for the small business. It can be used for the larger enterprise, right? So we just made these building blocks available for everyone for different kind of scenarios. So that's also say, for example, for a larger enterprise, if they want to get into the decentralized apps, if they go with our block, they can even own their everything by them own, right? They don't need to touch into the crypto. They don't need to, if they really hate blockchain or some regulations that forbidden them to touch with the crypto and blockchain, they can even run the whole version that without touching the blockchain. And that's all possible.
So is that what you meant, like off logic? Like that business logic, that kind of like.
Yeah. So first of all, because if you're running our block without a blockchain, without kind of tapping into the ecosystem, everything works, but you're going to losing a lot of opportunities.
Gotcha.
Because the whole part of this thing is building an ecosystem that you are reusing others' components, right? If you imagine you are enterprise, you say, hey, I don't want to have any crypto. I don't want any of those kind of related stuff. I build all the blocklet on my own from scratch. That's fine. But imagine you're going to using one of the popular blocklets because that blocklet is not free. The owner will say, hey, I do not want to deal with this kind of a business contract, and so I just need to because with blockchain and crypto in our block system is basically mostly used for billing and operation support. Right?
I do like that. So, like you have the revenue split technology. You could program, revenue split up between what it was like 5, as many wallets as you need it to be in a sense.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. For example, this example is correct for. I don't know if there is an American company like this, but in the old days in China, there's some kind of large company or large school. For example, when I in my university, right? In my university, we do not use the money for food, for anything. So there is a kind of like a school vouchers. So the vouchers have the same, face value. So this voucher says this is $1, right? So when I go to the restaurant in the university, I cannot pay with the cash. I can, of course, there is no credit card. I have to pay with a voucher issued by the school, right? So in the city around the university, the school's voucher become the actual fiat, because you can use that to buy anything in the
Yeah,
stores.
yeah. That's like your token in a way.
Yeah, this is exactly same
Yeah.
thing for the crypto. If the crypto is designed for utility in this small world, maybe this crypto becomes standard. It's not a fiat. The reason why I introduce the crypto is because crypto is more advanced than any payment network. It has smart contract. It has can instantly settle. There's a lot of advantage of doing that. I think the problem today's crypto industry is a lot of people can just to see, especially from the government side, whenever they see crypto, they only thinking this is a vehicle for scam, or this is something for illegal security, but they don't see crypto actually especially when Bitcoin was created, and since actually Bitcoin itself, it created because it has a lot of utilities that you can never do it with traditional technology, right?
Yeah.
Like before Bitcoin, you cannot do the peer-to-peer cash, securely, without any middleman.
Yeah,
right?
without a middle person.
You can't do that, right?
Yeah.
So that's a way advance of the technology.
I think blockchain 3.0, I mean, there's definitely going to be a lot more utility than, blockchain 1.0 and 2.0. I think there's going to be a new type of business model introduced, because, before it's all about, you buy a coin and the only thing that provides scalability to the coin is the next person buying, and that's what creates an unhealthy place. What we need, and I think what is the future, is companies that produce a business to crypto model integration, where value is created from the technology that's exchanged for by the token, and the service will be so great that it'll volumize the demand for the token to be utilized for that medium of exchange. I tell people all this time, and it's the most simple explanation I could give to people. It's like Chuck E. Cheese's. What makes you buy their token? Well, the arcade games. The arcade games create the value, the entertainment, and the demand for you to take your USD and exchange it for those tokens, so you could play in their ecosystem. The arcade, and it's the same concept. If you have a token and you have a business or a product, or a business that has a product or a service, are you exchanging the token for that product or a service? Because that's what creates value, and the token is creating value capture. And ultimately, if you have a rotating engine that creates the demand enough, that's going to create true velocity. It's not a Ponzi. That's real utility and real value creation and substance, not just the next guy buying in. And that's the old ways. The new way is the way I see it, with crypto to business model integrations, and ArcBlock has that. It has that 100%. You're creating a service and a product. It's going to create demand for the token, and that's your medium of exchange, and that's what it's meant for. So I really like the entire concept, and I like how you describe ArcBlock as blockchain 3.0, and I do see it that way, because it's truly decentralized. And here's something this is kind of a side question. It doesn't really have too much to do with ArcBlock, kind of, but not really. But it's about ETH and Bitcoin, and there's this big debate. They say, what's more sound money? Is it Bitcoin because of its fixed supply, or is it ETH because it's deflationary? And my opinion on this is, I truly believe inflationary and deflationary mechanisms don't belong in a sustainable crypto market. I think a sustainable market is, more of a POS, or, a fixed supply. So, and you could give me your opinion on all this, but I'm going to give you mine just to give you up front. When I think about ArcBlock, I kind of almost see a synergy between a fixed supply and also smart contracts in a way for programmability. So, when you say blockchain 3.0, I don't think people are putting two and two together about what you've done with this token economy. So, what do you think on this conversation?
Yeah, I think the tokenomic itself. I'm not an expert on the finance or
Yeah,
even the
just
economic
from
or
a tokenomic
tokenomic.
standpoint only.
But I think I always thinking just like a writing program, right? Is you don't need to be a scientist, rocket scientist. You just need to follow a few very basic rules, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for tokenomic, when we design our block, we clearly think that we need to find the simplest way. We need to find the simplest solution. So the simplest solution is fixed supplies,
Mm-hmm.
and
I agree.
Is a fixed supplies and let it circulate by itself, right? So when we're building a ecosystem, so what's the real ecosystem that we see in this world, right? It's our Earth, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what is the basic foundation? So our Earth has this much space, it has this resource, right? It's not changed, but it's circulate.
Yeah.
It's changed from this state to the other state. It moved from here to there, but the Earth never become two Earths. It's never expand. Probably somebody.
I agree.
Say,
You know what's funny? I agree 100% with you because it sounds so basic, but it's not done in the sector, and I hate it. I was literally just talking about how much I hate so a little bit of the finance coming out of me, but so in America we have a 6% inflation rate. So we have an expanding monetary system, as we all know. Again, this goes back to the sustainability problem. We have a sustainability problem. We're losing power in our currency or our fiat, and that's kind of the sound money thing. You need a fixed supply. And I hear people talk to me. They bring up different companies to me, and they're like, "Oh, I love this particular coin," but the coin, the mechanism, is super deflationary, or the mechanism is super inflationary. And I'm like, why are we going? You said you wanted to exit the centralized monetary system, so why are we buying overly deflationary coins? Why are we buying hyperinflationary coins when we're already dealing with 6%? I mean, just a couple months ago we were dealing with 8%. So this is kind of goes back to the doctrine or the ideology of what people are used to and what they say they don't want, but when they go into the crypto sector, it's like they forget that part. And I really want to bring that up to a lot of people nowadays because a fixed supply is fair. It's more fair because it helps people determine what is being held, what's not being held, and there's no manipulation. Deflation and inflation is a form of manipulation. That's a problem. We need a fixed supply with a circulation based on products and services. That's the key to a real business and a real sustainable ecosystem. So that's something I really love about Arc Block, that I really want to get out to people because I think it's underappreciated because you hear all the Bitcoin guys say this, oh, I don't want to go into centralized ecosystem or the monetary system, but then they go into these different coins besides Bitcoin, but that's just something I wanted to bring up. Now, you said you just got through you just came back from Asia, right?
Yeah, so I usually use the holidays to do some business trips. There's for example, right now, China going to into the holiday. It's a Spring Festival, right? Everybody go back home, nobody work. So I can work here and in United States. And in the Christmas and everybody in the United States and in Europe are not working, but in Asia, it's just a small, not important holiday, and you can still. It's a very good time to meet people, right? So this time I visited Taiwan, I visited Korea, and have a short stopover in Hong Kong. I met quite a few local peoples there. Yeah, so that's a very interesting and a nice trip. I still a little bit jet lag. I haven't go back to China since the pandemic for over 3 years, so I haven't kind of get used to the go back forth between Asia time zone and the US time zone.
So you said you made some good connections out there. You have any good prospects happening up there? Or?
Yeah, we have I have quite a few. Every time for the trip, I always make very good connections.
Good.
And, but the result is going to coming out way much slower because this is the initial contact, and then we find some opportunities.
Yeah.
But we are, especially in Taiwan, and we're going to. I have met quite a few very interesting people in the industry, and even some of the people in the government, and potentially looking for more, applications in the Web3 space there. And Taiwan has been promoting they call it creativities, different type of creativities, from the artworks, from the small electronics devices, which is very interesting. Is especially very good for the creator economic. And I kind of thinking creator economy is going to be important, very important for Web3. In the Web3, when everybody own their own data, everybody can own their own website, and the payment no longer depends on any middleman, and there is no censorship, right? You no longer be scared of the censorship, that you don't dare to say something or let some big player happy. You can do whatever you want.
That's true.
But you still need to. But Web3, well, one thing I think important, Web3 is not out of the law, right? There's still law, there's still regulations, right? If for example, if I stay in China, I say something, I could get arrested, right? Mm-hmm. So if I'm smart, I will not say that part when I'm in China.
yeah, absolutely. No, absolutely. Well, I'm happy you brought up, a lot of those decentralization features, and one thing I do want to bring up is the fact that you brought up payments. And, a lot of people, on both sides of the aisle have experienced some sort of censorship. And I think that's a huge thing because, for instance, OddApp, for instance, when we take payment for subscription or whatever, it goes through Google or it goes through Apple. Well, what happens if Apple or Google says, we don't like your content, we're going to deactivate your payment system? See, this is an issue. So, payment integration is important for a project, and ArcBlock has that payment integration for its services. Not only for its services with the medium of exchange or the ABT standard, okay, but also for what you want. When you build something or you build something on Blocklet, you can accept any currency, but keep in mind, you could still earn ABT as you're selling NFTs. You say, hey, I want ABT as the exchange for this NFT, or what have you, And that's
so if you this is a very common question. Sometimes I heard from others say, so building on ArcBlock, if you're building everything on ArcBlock, it not necessarily you need to charge your users for cryptos, right? You can charge user USD. You can charge let the user pay with a credit card. They don't even know that has anything to do with the Web3 and the blockchain technology, because it's all behind things, right? And you also not necessary to only be able to accept the ABT. You can accept the ETH, USDT, or even BTC. This year, we're definitely going to support the BTC Lightning, because I'm always keep an eye on the BTC Lightning technology. I think the Lightning is very close to matured, and we're going to support the BTC Lightning this year.
Wow, that's awesome.
So that basically means you can accept any kind of payment as long as your application decide, right? It has nothing to do with ArcBlock, nothing to do with ABT, nothing to do. It's all your application. You make the full decisions. But what ABT is kicking is when you use a resource, right? You need to, if you are building a software that do not need to communicate with anybody else, right? Then you don't need ABT, right? But if you're building something, you need to depend on others' servers. You need to depend on others' blocklet. You need to depend on other service provided by the others. So we need a standard, and we need a mechanism that quickly exchange between the multiple parties in this ecosystem. So in our ArcBlock ecosystem, there's only one standard, which is ABT. So that is to say, for example, I'm a developer, I'm building this I'm building this. Imagine I'm building my personal website blog, right? I'm charging my readers like $50 per month. So my users has nothing to do with crypto or ABT. But when I run this server, I have to pay my blocklet server, let's say 50 ABT per month, right? So that basically say I'm making $50, but I have to pay 50 ABTs per month. So where do I get this ABT, right? So where does this ABT come to? Because this ABT using the others blocklets, use the blocklet services. So those services, the ABT go to those people. So this is the same thing as the Bitcoin, right? If you're mining Bitcoin, the Bitcoin network going to give you the block award in BTC. They will never be able to give you ETH or USDT. They can't give you anything else but the BTC, because the BTC is a standard for the BTC network. But when you run the mining, you need to buy the miner machines. You need to pay for the electricities. You need to pay for the network. You could pay all different kind of things, different currencies for all those services. For the BTC network, it doesn't care. It's basically ultimately it's your own decision to decide how do I mine it, how do I charge people, right? So back to the Web3 application built on top of our block, is automatic goal, is automatic decision for the developers to decide. Hey, I want to charge BTC, or I want to charge users the USDT. I want to give the service free for the users. I just cover all the costs. All of those is a developer's solo decision, right? But anything that within our block ecosystem, there's only one thing, that is ABT, right? So that's also kind of a little bit back to the tokenomic system, because in the tokenomic system, in this our block network, the whole things, we treat the whole resource as the whole set of the token, because the token is just a user for the medium of exchange.
Yeah, exactly.
If there's
you're creating demand
external
for it.
economic flow in and flow out, nothing changed. It remained the same, no matter how. But the reality is, when the user building a new application on top of the art block, that basically means they're adding some more value into the art block ecosystem. Those value is taken from external side, right? So this is not people like say, hey, I'm buying ABT. No, this is basically I building application. I spend my money for my engineers. I bought service from Google. I do the promotion. Those are all the money. Those are all the value. Actually, the value that they injected into this art block ecosystem.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
The ecosystem also have the value that flow out, because the system running on AWS, the system running on some third-party service, there's somebody need to pay out, either our block or somebody else. They need to pay out. So those are the value that are flowing out of the ABT ecosystem, right? So then the whole model is very simple to figure out. Is this whole ecosystem of the value? You just simply see how many value are flowing into this system and how many value are flowing out of the system, right? That basically means if there's more and more applications, more and more ecosystem that building onto our block, that basically means the value of our block is going up, right? If nobody built on that here, if this is a wasteland, no matter what the token price look like, no matter how many people are bullish on the concept or not, it doesn't matter, right? It's
still a functioning automated product, and that's what I like about the entire cycle of this thing, because it's like when I was learning about the way the business model worked, I was like, wow, this whole thing is like automated. It's almost like it's automated the way it all works. Like, it's you just the way everything is, it's just processed from one step to the next. I bought my blocklet, I downloaded everything I needed to download. I launched each one of the 8 applications that I needed to get what I wanted. So I really like that.
Without the technology, you're going to hire somebody. You're going to pay the salary.
That's typically my first go-to. It is typically my first go-to. But I was able to build my own website. I did a forum as well. Or the blog with Blocklet. And, I did put it in our Telegram so that way, people could find it. I'll just put news bulletins on that, but I also, and I tell people all the time, I'm like, a lot of people sit there and they say, they want the admin to do this, they want the admin to do that. The admin's already built the foundation. He's already built a completed platform here that took since 2017 to create. It's here. And the future is ArcBlock DAO. And in order to be a DAO or to be a community member, no matter what, see, what's funny is like when people first hear DAO, they say, oh, well, that means I have to do something for the project. But you always, if you're a community member or if you're bullish on any project, what do? You talk to somebody about it, or you utilize the technology. And that's what a DAO does. If the DAO member or the community member cares about the project, like they say they do, then what are you doing to help the project? Are you just holding the coin and waiting for something to happen? Okay. Or are you somebody that's buying the coin, learning the technology, utilizing the technology, or are you just somebody that's just holding the token and then whining because they're not doing the work for you, right? So that's the problem with the difference between a real community member and someone that's not a community member. Are you only here for the short run? Or are you here for the long run? Are you here to help build? Are you a builder? Is there more that you could get done for your own personal life? You want to have growth in your own life, and that's why the crypto sector is here. It's not just about collecting coins, it's about utilizing the coins that you're buying or learning about. What's funny is like, a lot of our people really like ArcBlock, but I think only 5 of them have tried to use the blocklet. And I tell people, like, guys, it gives you your own domain. You don't need to go to Google. It gives you your own domain. You get to create your own stuff on it, and it runs. Everything's there. So you could utilize these tools to monetize and create your own business that'll pay for the server. It'll pay for what you need, and you can create an entire business model from scratch in literally days, not weeks and months and years. It expedites the process of building. So if you think about the expansion process for, let's say, Cosmos or DOT or ETH, it took years to create these applications, years to make the expansion happen. When the builders come, and they are, clearly there's people already building on this, but as they come on board to build on this ecosystem, it's going to happen at lightning speed compared to other projects that take, for instance, Cosmos and DOT, they only have 2 coding languages. So now you only have the developers that could build there that only know those 2 particular languages. With ArcBlock, you could utilize any language. There's different things that are going to slow process of growth or expedite it. And I think ArcBlock, the way it's built and the way it's automated, it's already built for expansion on a faster track because builders could build faster. You don't need to be worried about all these different things to just make something. You could just think the idea and you could go make it. It's super fast, and that's really what I liked about it. And I think this is a big thing that nobody talks about. The fact that you guys were there to support me when I was, I'm not a coder like that. I'm not advanced like you guys, but the fact that you guys were there to support me trying to build these things meant a lot to me because nobody does that. Nobody does stuff like that. And I thought that was awesome.
Cool. Yeah, I think it's really take a lot of R&D effort to make this easier and easier to adopt, right? So last year, our blog is a lot of concept was there for over 3 years already. It's running, but if like 3 years ago, probably only developers they will be able to set up, and there still is a lot of glitches. So last year, when you try to do that, right, it almost works, but there's still something here and there. And we're just to keep that moving, make it smoother and easier for the consumers, for the end user to be able to use it. Our ultimate goal is make the platform, make building software with the blocklets, which is basically the same thing as decorating. I always like to use the apps like to decorate the home, right? Mm-hmm. So I just need to buy that printer on my back, install my lamps. I don't need the professional people to do that for me. I like this lamp. I like this printer. I just bought it and done. Right. That's
Yeah, you
it.
just plug it in, you're ready to go. And and that's the easiness is really where it's at. I think it's awesome.
Yeah,
Um,
that's the future. That's the future of the software, right? That's the future of software. That's the future of the DApps that anybody can. You just cherry pick whatever you like, and then you customize it, and you make them work together, right? And then you have your unique applications for yourself or for your friends.
yeah, I have one more question, and then it's up to you how long you want to go. But I have one more question. So
Okay, so last questions.
yeah, last question, last question. All right, so I noticed that you retweet or you've done a lot of Twitter Spaces with SquareDAO. I think that's what it's called, SquareDAO.
Yeah, square down. Yeah.
So you have, I mean, who is the founder of this? Or like I saw that they did a whole article about ArcBlock and DID. I mean, I was able to translate it. It was pretty cool how they were recognizing the need for DID. So can you tell me about like who they are or who?
Squared, so Squared is a group of people in Chinese. They're Chinese speaking. So the founder of the Square DAO is one of the top-notch VC. We call it Blue Run. Blue Run is actually they also have a US, but that guy is a partner in Blue Run VC China. So he started this Square DAO and focus on for the builders in the Web3 space. So I pretty actively participated with the Square DAOs, and and also I'm going to partner together with the Square DAO for quite a bit of those kind of interviews and the live streaming this year together. As you can see, I put the logo of Square DAO and yours here together. But most of them are Chinese speaking. So I might have a few of the streaming are speaking Chinese. So yeah.
Who are the?
So and the Square DAO also partnered with a bunch of research teams. So the wallet research is by one of the member of the DAO who is running a research firm for the crypto and the finance technology. And so that is something they built.
I noticed a couple of the leaders there. I think was it VeChain. I think was one of the founders.
I think most of the so that Square DAO contains almost all the top-notch crypto and blockchain and Web3 founders in the DAO. It's a very nice organization, and the whole topic in the Square DAO are about technology. I honestly learned a lot. I learned a lot in Square DAO in some of the conversations, and that's purely a place for the real builders and the technology innovators.
That's awesome.
And of course, there's also VCs. There's some VCs. There are some builders. There are also some of the people in the marketing space.
That's awesome. I was taking a look at just some of the names in there, and I saw founder of VeChain there. I think there was a couple.
The top VIP there, I think, is Feng Xiao. Is Xiao Feng. He is one of the most respected venture capitalist in China, and I don't know if you know that he's basically like angel round investor of the Vitalik for the Ethereum.
Oh, really? Wow. Yeah. So that's crazy.
I think he wrote the first check for Ethereum.
Oh, wow. I was looking at just a lot of the names there, and I was just like, I'm like, man, Robert is always like around a lot of these guys, and it's just, I feel like they learn a lot from you too. When I read the article, they were really highlighting ArcBlock and DID and the importance of the wallet.
Yeah, I think so. I shared a lot of interesting ideas and shared a lot of stuff there, and I also learned a lot from them. So that's a beautiful part of a good organization, right? So in a healthy and good organization is a mutual benefit. You learn stuff, you gain your value from that, and also you give back value to others, right? So yeah, that's the same thing. For example, when we with MYCNETWORK.
Yeah.
I really want to thank you, for you to introduce. For example, the last week we have the buy storage box. We talked publicly to think about how to collaborate. I also like to thank you for introduce a few of your friends. We have discussed how to build on the our block. That's really helped, right?
Yeah, no, I thank you a lot too. I feel like, I tell the guys a lot, I feel like you changed me a lot. I learned a lot from you, and, just you made me care about building a lot. So, I want to continue doing what I could do and, bringing whatever I can to you. I know a lot of different people within the sector that I feel could help out, or, maybe you could utilize them, or maybe they could utilize you. And I together, it just goes back to that main virtue. What do you really care about? Do you really care about, like, when we again, when you first, for me, when I first got into crypto, I didn't really care too much about the tech. I really, just more of an investor or trader. And the more I started learning from you, the just seeing certain things happen within the sector when it comes to people coming together to build products and build greater services for the sector, that's kind of what really led me through this more of an inspirational type of pathway, where I was like, man, there's actually so much more that we could do, or so much more that we could do for people. Because instead of being a person that's just holding a token, waiting for someone else to do something, I got the token and I have the power to do something myself. I have the power to help build, or I have the power to help projects or people like you that are awesome to this sector and awesome to people around you. Any way that I could help, I want to do that. I think that's what real community members should have in their heart. You should really want to care about people and what they do, because you have ambitions, and you have greater ambitions that are even beyond, even more than this, that you could do. So I always want to make sure that our community respects you and respects what you have going on. And we want to make sure that we bring awareness to Arc Block, especially for us being kind of like we want to be a DAO, right? So we want to make sure that it's not just about us. We got to do our part in making sure that we bring awareness to Arc Block, because it is a great technology and it solves a lot of problems. And that's the point. We want projects that solve a problem and they have viable business models. That's the point.
Absolutely, yes. I believe that soon you should be able to build a DAO that powered by blocklets within our block.
Yeah.
And I believe we're also potentially we're going to also turn the Square DAO into a DAO backend that powered by our block.
Wow, that is really huge. I like how you always, really drop a bomb on us in the most nonchalant way. It's always like regular, kind of calm.
I really cool. Like this concept called the PLG, product lead growth, right? So so every time when I give introduction of what we do, I want to show the product, right? I don't want to make a hard sell. I don't want to say, I build this for you. Because by end of the day, people only want something. People only come if they really want that, or that is only useful, right? So just sometimes, especially when the crypto technology is in the early days, if you want to make the sale, if you want to try to introduce to people still not come because this is for example, sometimes it's not that useful. It's too geek, right? Sometimes the technology is not there yet.
Yeah.
But keep building, keep improving, and keep let the people know that has some value. And then once when more people realize, okay, the product actually has a value, so the product going to sell for itself, right? So that leads the growth. So the PLG, product lead growth, I think that's a way for the new Web3 technology to take off. I believe this is also the way for the blocklet to take off. So if it is not take off, it's just because it's not ready yet. It's not good enough, right? But once it's good enough, and
well, I think the fact that people are starting to use it, I think that's the first indicator that it's starting to pick it up. What?
Yeah. So interesting. By the way, interesting. You see that when we are doing this, we're creating a few of those kind of Twitter giveaway events.
I did see that. Yeah.
Right. So those are all built with our block as reusable blocklet. So first of all, it's a promotion tools for us to do the promotion. The second is all those tools is going to be useful for anybody who build on our block, right? So you're going to once in the future, anybody who build a new application, everybody need a promotion. Anybody need to community reach out, need to give away for the user, airdrop for the users, right? They don't need to build stuff their own because we already built this and we use ourselves, and then you can use them
I like it.
directly. Right?
I like those
So-
things. You could customize your sweepstakes, or you could customize a gift card. I think that's awesome. I mean, no one's done that. Nobody's done any of that. So like, I like that a lot, and especially the retweet thing. The retweet, the incentivize.
We're going to. I think 2023 is going to be potentially be a turning point for the crypto industry. That more and more people realize the application is the king, right? You need to have the applications, not just to keep building new blockchain or new cryptos or those kind of DeFi, let people lock in the money and waiting, expecting to make big money.
Yeah.
So that's not the way the industry to grow. The only growth part is have a lot of applications. Have the applications people want. Have the applications that change people's life, make people's life easier, and the people going to contribute. People going to put the value into it. Once the crypto only become more valuable because people are putting more value into it. It's not because just a pump and dump. That will get zero value, right?
Yeah,
that's going to just
people want,
potentially even waste the money.
Yeah, people want sustainability too. You know, they want something that's sustainable and all that. I did notice that you did say that 2023 you're gonna try to up marketing at all, or?
Yeah, so that part is PLG marketing, that product lead marketing. We're going to utilize all kind of new technology like AI to do a lot of cool things.